Even though A.J. Dybantsa is likely going to be the number one pick to the Washington Wizards, mostly because he's viewed as the safest choice there, that doesn't mean he should be. That doesn't mean he should be viewed as the prize of this draft. No, that's going to be North Carolina star Caleb Wilson. Again, he won't go number one to the Wizards, but he will be the best player in this class, and here's why. Out of the near consensus top 4 prospects, Caleb is the only player that played the other 3 last season, and he was the best player in each of those games. In an exhibition against BYU, Caleb had 22 points and 10 boards in Salt Lake City. AJ, 18-8. Not a bad game. Caleb was better, though. Caleb's Tar Heels beat Darren Peterson's Kansas Jayhawks. This is before Peterson had all the cramping issues. Beat them head-to-head. Caleb had 24, 7, and 4, while Peterson had a fewer, 22, with far more shot attempts. Cam Boozer's Blue Devils lost 3 games all year long. One of them, the one run-in he had with Caleb Wilson before Wilson had his hand injury. It was in Chapel Hill. Caleb, 23 points on 8 of 12 shooting. He played all 40 minutes. He didn't have a turnover. Meanwhile, Cam Boozer, sure, he had one more point with 24, but it required 21 shots for him to get there, and he had a game-high 4 turnovers. Caleb won the game. Caleb was the better player on the court. Caleb Wilson is also the superior talent in this draft. He is the most gifted player in this class, physically. His jump shot, especially at the elbow, mid-range, much cleaner than Dybantsa or Cam Boozer. In fact, his 58% field goal percentage, it was higher than all 3 of those guys. 58% from the field. And a big part of the reason why he shot 58%, he has this freakish dunking ability. He was the best dunker in college basketball. When he went down with the hand injury, he led college basketball in dunks. It was something I actually had a chance to ask him about during the season, and here's how that exchange between me and Caleb sounded. Do you remember the first time you dunked?
7th grade. I was at Landmark Christian School, my middle school, and I had on some LeBrons, and everybody was joking about LeBrons because, they're heavy. And then I was like, bro, I can dunk in these. And then I just went and did it. It was crazy. I had never dunked before. I was always like this close, and I dunked that day. It was crazy. Like I dunked it, and then I just looked around, and everybody was quiet. They just told me it was cap. The goal was low. Friends are always gonna humble you, so that was all they said.
For a 19-year-old kid, he's so polished. He's such a smart, thoughtful player. He's the kind of kid, as somebody who's covered college sports closely for such a long time, when you talk to him, you think, what are his parents like? What do his parents do? Because they did such a great job with this kid. Which brings us to intangibles. Since the evaluation is close between these top 4 players, between Dybantsa and Darren Peterson and Cam Boozer and Caleb Wilson, the top 4, intangibles could be a separator. If there's a clear talent difference, intangibles don't matter so much. Last year, Cooper Flagg. Clear talent difference between him and the next best guy, who turned out to be pretty good, Dylan Harper, and then Konkadipple and VJ Edge come in that group, but still a clear gap between them and Cooper Flagg. When it's close, intangibles can make a big difference, and they should with this year's class. Unlike with Darren Peterson, there's no questioning Caleb's competitiveness level. There's none of it. The cramping issue with Darren Peterson, it was weird. Now he's saying it's creatine, and okay, yeah, there were times it's serious, but he still should be taken number 1 because we shouldn't worry about the severity of that. And okay, how does that explain Bill Self's comments during the year where he pointed out how strange it was? It doesn't excuse the fact that it was the flu or a cold, why Darren took himself out of pregame warm-ups after warming up, took himself out of playing the number 1 team in the country in Arizona. It's weird. With Caleb Wilson, The game after facing Duke is when he broke his hand against Miami. And the injury was bad. You knew it in the moment because he went to the locker room and his mom went back to the locker room with him. Caleb came out of the locker room and played the second half of that game against the Hurricanes. You think Darren Peterson was going to do that if he broke his hand? No, of course not. But Caleb Wilson, he's just a different breed. You don't have to worry about his competitiveness level. And you look at the value, it's a little bit of a red flag. The Arizona game for another reason, too. Kansas won that game against number 1 Arizona without Darren Peterson on the floor. You look at the finishes to the year. Cam Boozer had all this talent at Duke around him. Pat Gamba would be a lottery pick if he came out. Dame Sarr would be a first-round pick. Isaiah Evans is going to be a first-round pick. Talent all over that Duke roster. Disappointing finish to the season in the NCAA tournament. A.J. Dybantsa. Okay, you put up these great numbers. First-round loss for a team last year that made it to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. So this isn't some talent-devoid BYU team. With Caleb Wilson on the floor, North Carolina was a borderline top 10 team when he was in there. Beat Duke, one of 3 teams to do so. Without him, they were 5-4. They lost in round 1 in historic fashion, blowing a 19-point lead against VCU, and their head coach, Hubert Davis, got fired. You want to talk about value? I think we saw it there. This is why scouting is so important in basketball, because there's no sport where it's more important to watch the prospects up close, to watch them in person, because there's so much that just appears to you watching the game up close than when you watch on tape, when you watch on television. And personally, I watched Caleb Wilson play about a half dozen times. I watched Cam Boozer play about 10 times up close in person last year at Duke. And I watched Darren Peterson play 2 times in person. Full disclosure, have not seen A.J. Dybantsa. To me, the debate would be Dybantsa or Caleb Wilson for the number 1 pick if I'm Washington. Those are the 2 best prospects in this draft. Those 2. Dybantsa is going to get talked about enough. Caleb Wilson needs to be talked about more. Because another thing that stands out when you watch the guy in person, it's the little things, man. It's the things that don't appear in a stat sheet. His ability, his willingness to dive on the floor for loose balls. It's like understanding the game of basketball IQ, understanding the spots to get the crowd involved in it, some of his actions, some of his mannerisms to get his teammates engaged. These things, they lead to winning. His movement off ball, his energy. Caleb Wilson's a dude. Whoever gets him is going to be really happy they did. He's going to be the prize of this draft, and he's going to be the guy 5 years from now we look at and say, yeah, he should have been the number 1 pick to the Washington Wizards. A.J. Dybantsa, it's a safer pick. Caleb Wilson's going to be the best player in this draft.